Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Ellis Raymond. I'm an author and I was born with tricuspid atresia. Today I am interviewing Rebekah, who also has a congenital heart defect and contracted the coronavirus and has since recovered. So in a few minutes she will be joining me on Zoom and I will interview her. Rebekah has just joined. Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to being interviewed, especially about something that is making a lot of people, especially those of us who have heart conditions, very nervous right now. So to give viewers a little bit of perspective, could you tell us what your congenital heart condition is?
Sure. So I have transposition of the great arteries or transposition of the great vessels, depends on who you talk to. So everything mostly has been good so far. I did have to get a pacemaker last year. That was new.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I went into some atrial tachycardia at work, and then my heart just was like in the 140s, just like sitting there, and I was like, huh, this doesn't seem right. I was in the hospital. I ended up being there for 8 days. I got a pacemaker placed. They tried to do an ablation, but my heart didn't want to cooperate, so I didn't get that done. Eventually, I'll probably get that in the future, but I'm good for right now. He's like, you're good with taking medicine. It's working for you, so, we don't have to do an ablation unless you want to right now. I was like, nope, I'm fine. I'm good. It's working. Maybe in the future, but I'm good.
What were your initial thoughts when you heard COVID was out in the world? Where was, because for me it was a lot of anxiety. What did you experience?
Yeah, so at first, I was just like, it's another thing going on. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. After seeing it in person with my patients, I started to get very anxious, very freaked out about getting it and what would happen to me. Am I even gonna make it? I know how we do with flu and cold, so oh my gosh, what's this gonna be like with this disease that's even worse? I was definitely very anxious, very paranoid, very freaked out. I was actually off of work from the beginning of April all the way to the end of June.
Was that on cardiologist's orders?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I took some short-term disability time just because I work very closely with the ED, with the emergency room. And so that you're getting everything. You don't know who's positive. You don't know who's not positive. Generally, by the time they get, to the other parts of the hospital, they've run tests. They know who's positive. They know who's not, that kind of thing. So she was just like, no, just stay out of work for now. And, maybe after we've learned more about it, it won't be a big deal and you can go back. By the time June came around, she said, oh yeah, I've been contacting my fellow congenital heart doctors, and we're just not seeing what we thought we would see with our patients who had tested positive. She had basically said that at this point, there's no evidence that we've seen in congenital heart patients that they're affected any worse than any other regular patient. She was like, there's just really no evidence for me to say that you need to stay home more.
So then when you contacted work, did you say, can I not be in the emergency room? Can I be somewhere else?
Yeah, so whenever I got back to work, we weren't accepting any COVID patients at all on our little unit, because we work with the emergency room, but like we're like a little separate unit to where it's not like they've already done all the emergency room stuff. And they were testing everyone who came in and was being admitted. We were so overwhelmed at a certain point with having so many COVID patients that we had to use part of our unit as like a whole, a place for the COVID patients.
Right.
So luckily my coworkers were very understanding and they were like, no, she can't have any COVID patients. I'll take them,
Right.
So they were all great about it.
So what were some of your symptoms that you started to notice when you realized, okay, maybe this is COVID, maybe it's not? What was that process like?
So I had been taking this new medication that had actually started making me like really nauseous. So I was feeling miserable for like a week, and I actually had to call into work one day, and then I tried to go in a couple days later, and I was like, you know what? I just feel like garbage. I can't stay. I just need to go home. I came home, I took a nap, and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I feel 1,000 times worse. Like, what is going on? I was like, this is so weird. You know, this isn't the regular nausea I was having. Like, I started having like cold like symptoms. Like, my nose was kind of stuffed up, and like, I noticed I had a little bit of a cough, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But I just ignored it, of course, because that's the nurse in me. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, I just need some sleep. So I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning and I felt even worse. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think something weird is happening. I do not feel good at all. Like, I had body aches. I had pretty much every symptom of COVID that they ask you about. I had.
You lost the taste?
Well, not yet. That actually happened later. It was really weird. So this was Sunday. So Sunday I woke up. That was like the second day of me kind of having these flu-like symptoms. Body aches, fevers, chills, like literally every symptom. The only thing I really didn't have at that time was the loss of taste and smell, and then shortness of breath. I was very fortunate that at that time I didn't have any shortness of breath. So since I work for a hospital, we have protocols. So I called in and I was like, hey, I need to get checked for COVID. I'm not feeling too good. They got me all set up. So the next day I went and got tested at one of our facilities. I was very fortunate since I'm an employee. They got it back super quick. Yeah, so Monday I got tested. Tuesday, I woke up and I was like, I still felt bad. I felt ever so slightly better, but I still felt bad. And horrible cough. And then I went to go drink some Powerade Zero, which is what I'd been trying to hydrate myself with. And I realized I couldn't really taste it. It tasted kind of funny. And then I was like, huh. So then I had a little popcorn thing, a little skinny pop white cheddar popcorn that I like to eat. And I was like, I can't taste this either. Uh-oh, this isn't good at all. Oh, and then I went into my husband's office. I was like, you know, I wonder if I can smell anything. So I went to my husband's office. I got a big squirt of hand sanitizer, and I was like, and I smelt it, and there was nothing. No smell at all. Nada, nothing. And I was just like, okay, yep, I've got COVID. Definitely got COVID. And then maybe an hour later or 2 hours later, they called and they were like, hey, so you're positive. And I was like, oh crap, yeah.
Yeah. So then how many days of work did they say don't come in? Was it like a 2-week?
So I ended up missing 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks of work. My facility was very generous with their policies. They had me follow up with a telemedicine appointment, every 4 days. And then they were like, please, if you have any issues breathing, anything like that, please go to the ER. You know, we're going to get you taken care of. But luckily, fortunately, I didn't have any of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many of those days in those 2.5 weeks were you feeling incredibly sick?
So I would say for about a week, maybe a week and a few days, I was just like, this is worse than anything I've ever had. Because I know a lot of us, whenever we get the flu, we're usually down for the count for a while, and it kind of hits us pretty hard.
You mean people who have congenital heart conditions?
Yes, us heart patients, we usually get hit pretty hard with colds and flus and things like that. So honestly, I was pretty surprised that it was only a week that I was hit really hard. The second week was mainly spent recovering. I still had cough. I still had congestion, things like that, but it was not it wasn't near as bad as it was like the first few days in the first week. It was not a good time. I had I had diarrhea, I had vomiting, I had nausea, I couldn't keep anything down for like 3 or 4 days.
How did your appetite change with the loss of taste? Because I'm assuming when the loss of taste happened, you also were at the point in the illness where you didn't want to eat. So how long was the loss of taste for?
I'd say it took about 5 days, 4 to 5 days to get my taste like to come back a little bit. And then after like maybe like 8 or 9 days, it was back all the way. For me, the weirdest part wasn't the food. It was that my water tasted really weird. You know, we all have like our water that we drink, like our home faucet or our bottled water, and it all tastes a certain way. And so I'm drinking my water out of my cup and I'm going, oh my God, I need to clean this cup. It's disgusting. Like, what is wrong with, so I went and I cleaned the cup and I was like, oh, it still tastes disgusting. This is weird. I was finally able to like keep down crackers and Gatorade and Powerade. And I was pretty much just living on that for like 3 or 4 days straight until my stomach got a little better. And then eventually I was able to keep, like bread and potatoes and simple things like that down. I checked my oxygen regularly with my little pulse ox. I bought it on Amazon. I keep it at home. I stayed above 90%. I got low. I got close, but I didn't get below 90%, which is the important thing.
What do you usually run at?
So I usually run at like 97, 98. So my oxygen did get down to about 92, 93% at resting. The other thing I did that my doctor actually suggested, and we do a lot in nursing for patients who, they do it a lot in the ICU, so I'm not perfect on this, but lung issues and they need to rest their lungs basically, is they'll put them prone, which means lying face down. I tried to do it at least an hour a day where I would just lay face down. I would just relax. I mean, I had my head turned so I wasn't like suffocating, but I laid down, I listened to either the show or whatever I was doing, and I tried to do it for at least an hour every day whenever I was really, really sick. So for probably like 5 or 6 days. I would actually get up from lying prone and I would feel better. My oxygen would go up a little than it was before. Like, I mean, it wasn't a lot. It was maybe like 95, 96 instead of like 92, 93. But
Right.
I mean, hey, that's a lot as far as that goes, I also have some sleep apnea. So
Okay.
anytime I would sleep, because I was sleeping all day, I slept with my CPAP machine. So
Right.
I don't know, maybe that helped as well. I'm not really sure.
So was there any like medication or vitamins that you took while you had COVID?
Yeah, so I took a lot. So the doctor prescribed me doxycycline. They generally prescribe something else, but of course I'm allergic to it. So they gave me some doxycycline for 10 days as an antibiotic, just in case. I told her about my heart condition, so she went ahead and prescribed that for me. So as far as prescriptions go, I took my doxycycline, I took some Flonase, Zyrtec. I had my inhaler if I needed it, my albuterol inhaler. And then as far as vitamins go, I took 200 milligrams of zinc a day. I took 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. I took my multivitamin, which I always take anyways. I took vitamin D, which I generally always take anyways because I have low vitamin D.
So how did your day-to-day life change while you were fighting COVID? Because that definitely changes your whole routine, being sick, but COVID was like especially worse than other flus. So how did it change your day-to-day?
So I pretty much stayed in bed for a week. I would come out, I don't know, maybe once or twice a day at the most. But really, I was quarantining myself to the bedroom and the bathroom, and that was pretty much the only places I would go. So definitely, all I did was sleep and hydrate, and that's pretty much it. At one point, I did go pick up my groceries from the front porch. I had them delivered, and the actual act of bending over and picking up the bags and walking them to the kitchen was like exhausting.
So you mentioned that you like quarantined yourself in the house. So did you have your husband like stay out of certain rooms while you were recovering, or were you guys like, all right, well, we live in the same apartment or house, so he probably already has it?
So I kind of had the school of thought where by this point I had already breathed all my germs on him. So he stayed in the bedroom with me. They suggested that I go by myself and without him and have my own bedroom and bathroom, but I mean, it had already been like 3 or 4 days, and generally you're more contagious whenever you're not having a lot of symptoms. So I figured by that point I had already breathed all over him. My mom does live with us. She kind of has like a mother-in-law quarters in the front of the house, and so I tried my best to stay away from her because I didn't want her getting infected. And she was walking around with Lysol wipes and sprays and, did you touch that? Okay, shh, that kind of thing. So she's very fortunate that she didn't get sick. So, and so I pretty much, so him, poor thing, he ended up with it too. So we both had it.
When did his symptoms start?
4 days after my positive test, he started with his symptoms. So I don't know if me quarantining from him would have helped or not at that point. I mean, who knows?
And then also my thought process goes to, you're so down and out that you kind of need that support of somebody there with you.
Yeah. He definitely was like, let me make you some of this. Do you need more Powerade? Let me get you some water. I was like, I need tissues. And then whenever he got sick, I was trying to help him, but I was also sick still. So it was kind of a mess there for...
So
how did you both survive being sick at the same time with COVID in the same room? And like, well, you gotta eat, you gotta prepare things, and you mentioned earlier like bending down to pick up groceries, you felt nauseous. How did that work?
So by the time he got he felt really bad, I was kind of more on the upswing and was feeling a little bit better. So it worked out just a little bit that I was able to help him a little bit, not too much. And my mom was here, and she helped a little bit as well, like keeping things clean and things like that. So that was super nice of her to help with that. And of course she was still walking around with the Lysol and everything. But
Did she get tested?
She got tested twice, and she tested negative both times.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's been in the news lately about the 3-month period of immunity, and then you can get reinfected. So where's your thoughts on being reinfected potentially?
It's one of those things, like, I'm a healthcare worker, and unfortunately that's just a risk that I take. Of course I'm going to take all the precautions I need.
Is there any advice as a nurse that you would want to give for the CHD community about COVID?
Sure. Definitely, right now, I say the number one thing is try not to let your anxiety get the best of you, because that is not going to help anything. It's super stressful. I totally understand. I've been there. I've done it. And believe me, it was not a good time, and I don't wish it on anybody. I just don't want people's anxiety to get the best of them. This is a hard time for all of us. I think if we all do what we're supposed to be doing, taking our precautions, wearing our masks, keeping ourselves clean, socially distancing, and doing what we need to do, that you know, we'll be all right. And I just think that's super important to not let our anxiety get the best of us. I did for like 3 months, and it was not a good time. I did not have a good time. I was stressed. I was freaked out. I was in bed a lot. You know, probably should have been up doing stuff, laundry, things around the house, but you know how it is whenever our anxiety takes over, it's bad.
Right. When you know that you're part of that population that is at higher risk for COVID, and the news is blaring everything that they blare.
That's another thing that I had to stop doing. I had to stop watching. I pretty much only watched my little shows that I know that aren't gonna like, and it drove my husband crazy. He's like, we need to know what's going on in the world, and I'm like, oh God, I can't, not right now. Because I would just get so stressed just watching even if it was something simple that's not even like just current events, but we're laughing at it. And that was like, nope, that's too much. I can't, it's stressing me out. Even Facebook, I had to take a break.
You had the wonderful case of working in a hospital that knew how to, take care of somebody who is an employee and who has a positive outcome. What would you say to people out there who have a different work situation where they're not so accommodating?
I was very fortunate to have work so accommodating, but if you're not so fortunate, I mean, you got to do what's best for you, and you got to do what's best for your health, and you know your body and you know your health. And if you, I mean, it sucks, I get it, but at the same time, there's only one of you. You can get another job. Yeah, it might take a while and it's not going to be a good time. Sometimes we just have to do what we have to do to make sure that we're safe.
Do you have any messages for anybody who does get sick with the coronavirus?
Sure. Just take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Try your best to stay quarantined. I know it sucks. The first thing we want to do is, but I need this from the store. Don't get too down. Try to look like every day for probably for like 3 or 4 days, I was really, really sick. But then it got a tiny bit better, and then it got a tiny bit better, and then it got a tiny bit better. And then before you know it, I was, almost well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rebekah, for joining us and answering all these questions. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people in the CHD community.
Yes, no problem. I sure hope so. I definitely want to share my story and make sure that everyone knows that we're going to be all right. We'll get through this, just like we do everything else.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. Bye.